Think about supply chain issues. If it is not secure, if it is not open, if there's not freedom of navigation and enforcement of maritime law, what that will mean in terms of impeding supply chains, and how that will relate then to the average American being able to get what they need every day.
Yes. Kamala Harris, another softball fluffer interview by another fake journalist at another fake network news organization. It is good to be a Democrat. She was blathering on. Is she still in Jakarta, Indonesia, or have they moved on? Still in Jakarta? CBS Fake News and Margaret Brennan with the hardball questions. You are ready to be president, aren't you? I know Joe Biden is as healthy and robust as a banana slug. But in the event that he should decide to step down, you are so ready. She was bragging yesterday to the Associated Press that she's a former prosecutor. And since the Democrats are prosecuting all of their political rivals, might be the perfect time for a prosecutor to become president. You know, they're assailing their political enemies, trying to jail everyone like in the Philippines or something. Well, they are in Indonesia now. I think Indonesia's got a more legitimate government than the United States has. We used to go around the world try to help people to modernize their systems of government and their elections and so on. We really can't do that anymore, can we? Why would they listen to us? If they're paying attention, they would laugh when the Harvard people came in to tell them what to do, you know? Remember all the Harvard people went into Moscow after the fall of the Soviet Union and I guess taught them to be gangsters. Because, Harvard. And Harvard, the worst college in the country when it comes to free speech on campus. Worst in the country by far and away, according to the latest rankings. Good stuff. All right, let's get to the crazy Democrats. Welcome back, and happy Thursday to you. We continue to be at 888-630-9625. Democrats continue to be gender dysphoric, violent. They love crime and criminals and hate the police and civilization itself, which is under assault by the left in the United States of America, with mayhem everywhere you look. And let me tell you, in Chicago, Illinois, perhaps you've heard of it. It's a great big city in the Midwest. And in Chicago, the Democrats they have this awful, horrible mayor there. Let's Go Brandon is his name. Let's Go Brandon Johnson. And he loves crime and murderers and people that shoot one another. And he hates businesses that peacefully pay taxes and act like normal people. So he's forcing the businesses out of Chicago and the tax-paying people out of Chicago. And he is celebrating murder and shooting and carjacking and looting because mob violence, because that's what the Democrat Party represents. All right? And we've got crime everywhere because the Democrat Party is a crime wave. And they support and promote the crime wave. They want more of the crime because, I don't know if you saw, you may or may not have seen, just outside of Washington, D.C., in Chevy Chase, like the guy who used to be on Saturday Night Live. Chevy Chase, Maryland, a gang of high school students attacked after a Friday night football game last Friday night, attacked a group. It was a racial attack, a racist attack. And the group of black students from one high school attacked white students from another high school at the subway stop, the metro stop on Friday night, stomped and beat down on the ground, jumping on them, kicking, the whole thing. And we just learned last night, no criminal charges for students involved in Bethesda Chevy Chase versus Walter Johnson high school brawl. It was actually Walter Johnson versus Chevy Chase high school brawl, so they got it backward here. But never mind that, because they love crime. None of the students involved in the brawl with the stompings, the gang stompings, and, people on the ground. It's like, that lunatic in New York that beat the woman with her own cane 60 times for 2 minutes. And turns out he's a career criminal. Surprise, surprise. Democrat, 9 arrests in the past, violence against the police, drugs, the usual Democrat panoply, And I guess they've arrested him now, right? They're going to release him on his own recognizance again, I assume, which they love to do. And now these, oh, come on, it was just a friendly little brawl at the metro stop after a football game. No, it was gang mob violence and racial mob violence. And if you had just changed it around and a gang of white students had a black student on the ground and they were stomping on him, then that would be a big national story. But here, Chevy Chase, Montgomery County, leftists run the place, and they love crime. They love MS-13 more than they love their own children. Isn't that peculiar? Yeah, but that's studies have shown. That's the thing. And so we got that, no charges there. And, of course, the manhunt still underway for a Democrat arrested for murder, taken to the George Washington University Hospital in Washington, D.C. yesterday. And he escaped from the hospital, and he's still on the loose. And he is wanted for murder, and he's on the loose. Keep your eyes peeled for him. Police describe him as a Democrat. Also in Pennsylvania, they're still hunting the illegal alien murderer from Brazil, who's wanted for murder in Brazil. So he came to the United States. He escaped the police in Brazil, came to the United States, stabbed a woman to death, stabbing her 38 times in front of her two little girls. And then he escaped from the hospital. Did you see the video of him escaping? Pretty athletic. I used to be able to do that. I don't think I can do that anymore. Scaling up two walls like that. That was pretty impressive. And then they're on the lookout for him. And of course, the suspect arrested in Arlington, Virginia, chasing an innocent American taxpayer down the street with a machete. And he's been arrested. I assume that he will be released on his own recognizance as well, because that's what happens when Democrats are in charge. Pretty amazing. Male victim being chased down the street by crazy men with machete. And it's hard to say whether the crazy man with the machete, Jose Gutierrez del Cid, not El Cid like the Spanish, conqueror from 1,000 years ago, but the 33-year-old Jose Gutierrez del Cid, and he's being held without bond. None of the news media would dare to report whether he was here illegally or not, because that would be culturally insensitive. See, we got that. And in New York and Chicago, they've got their illegal alien problems, big problems with illegal aliens, and they want tens of billions of dollars of money from people in Kansas and Iowa and Oklahoma to pay the city of Chicago, because they're sanctuary cities and all this stuff. Now, this is pretty amazing stuff. In Chicago, they are now throwing illegal aliens by the hundreds into O'Hare Airport and just put up a curtain around them, right? Say, well, there's a bathroom down the hall there. There are no shower facilities or anything like that. But you're in an airport now. Wasn't there a Tom Hanks movie about this? And they've got, I think the number is 433 illegal aliens in the O'Hare Airport, Chicago's O'Hare Airport. And they've just thrown them in there. And if you're critical of the way that the mayor of Chicago, let's go, Brandon Johnson, is handling the situation, then he's inclined to accuse you of being a racist, because he's black and he'll just call everybody racist. After he does a terrible, horrible job, he'll say, well, the only reason this is happening is because I'm black. And otherwise, nobody would be critical of me for the skyrocketing homicide rates, the skyrocketing shootings, the skyrocketing carjackings, the skyrocketing lootings, the skyrocketing companies, employers, tax base, fleeing the city of Chicago for any place else. But the Democrat mayor wants to claim that it's all about race. And the headline from the Chicago Tribune today, Daywatch, they love their colons, Mayor Brandon Johnson pushes back. What do you mean pushes back? Shouldn't, honestly. Mayor Brandon Johnson lambasted critics who have said he's off to a slow start as mayor, arguing that he's being held to a, quote, different standard, end quote, as a black man, and reiterated his vow to chart a different path than his predecessors. Now, his predecessor was a black woman who's a lesbian. That's all we know about her, and that she loves murder and hates the police. In an hour-long discussion centered on his first 100 days in office, Johnson said he's taking a deliberate approach to reframing how his work is done on City Hall's fifth floor, and said that criticism of that approach is unfair and based, at least partly, on his race. It's all his race. Never mind the stats, the murders, I'm not blaming him for the weather or anything. They're blaming Republicans for the weather. He said, there's a different standard that I'm held to. There is, Johnson said, and it's not something that I'm mad at. He's not mad at it. But that's just the reality. I'm not the first person of color. No, the last mayor was a black lesbian woman. Particularly a black man, he said, that will be held to a different standard than other administrations. They've had black mayors in Chicago for, when I was a teenager, there were black mayors in Chicago. Pay no attention. Amazing stuff. But that's what he says, because that's, it's all about race. That's the thing. And that's okay, because now in New York, and again, the story from the Chicago Tribune doesn't go on to say that he's throwing illegal aliens into O'Hare Airport by the hundreds and putting them behind a curtain. They don't talk about the skyrocketing crime. They left all this out. The carjacking, the people fleeing the city, the companies fleeing the city, the economy suffering in Chicago because of their policies. None of that's actually in the Chicago Tribune story because, it's good to be a Democrat. But if you go to O'Hare Airport, you might see some black curtains set up and the illegals by the hundreds in there. And, they're a sanctuary city because they're liberals. And they love everything that's bad for the United States of America. Sleeping on the floor, O'Hare International Airport. Little information is being offered by the city on what's next for any of these people. Well, they don't have to. Racists. Why would you even mention that? Racist. You're a racist. Racist. Because that's their response to everything, right? A judge in Texas has ordered Texas to remove the floating border barrier in, they got it in the river in the Rio Grande. And Abbott has immediately appealed the ruling, but a federal judge has now ordered Texas to remove the floating barrier. The state of Texas has made it clear that the barrier has actually reduced the number of drownings, but the Democrats want to kill more people because they're not liberals, they're the left. But a federal court has now, and it's actually he's a Republican appointee, I believe, federal judge. Nearly three months after Governor Greg Abbott ordered the deployment of 1,000-foot line of buoys and mesh in the Rio Grande, an Austin federal judge has ordered the state to remove the barrier and stop building further obstructions in the river. Don't obstruct people breaking our laws, sneaking into our country illegally. That's not something you should be doing. Just amazing stuff. Am I right? Now, at the same time, Mayor Eric Adams. So Chicago is a complete disaster, and you're a racist if you raise if you raise an eyebrow about all of the mayhem and the murder. I think honestly they must invest in coffin companies and funeral homes, and that's how they're cashing in, because it's quite amazing what they're doing here. But the mayor of New York, he's some gems out of him yesterday and the day before. Wait till you hear this stuff, because they've got about 20,000 illegal alien kids coming into the school system this week in New York City. And not only not English speaking, but they might speak Chinese or Uzbek or Portuguese or Tagalog or whatever, but they don't care. I've got the mayor of New York, Eric Adams, coming up. You'll never believe what he's saying and who he's blaming. You might believe it, but you got to hear it anyway. Boy, oh boy. President Biden's plan to introduce the digital dollar in place of the U.S. dollar and paper money already underway. And it's very important to understand the potential consequences of this radical left-wing scheme, because contrary to their claims, this is not in your best interest or mine. Time is of the essence, so taking action now is a really good idea if you want to protect your savings in your retirement. You can help protect your savings from the risks of the digital dollar by diversifying with gold and silver IRAs. You get started with that by calling the experts at American Alternative Assets. Call them today at 888-4GOLD-20. That's 888-446-5320. American Alternative Assets help you safeguard your retirement savings. Say no to Joe Biden's digital dollar. Call 888-4GOLD-20. That's 888-446-5320 for American Alternative Assets. Individual results may vary. There is no guarantee that past performance will be indicative of future results. Seek your own legal, tax, investment, and financial advice before opening an account. Yeah, Eric Adams, Chicago, and like, hey, we're not border states. But what do you hear, Eric Adams? This guy, everybody should be impeached, and we should start over again. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Book by this July 31st for extra savings. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. All right. Yeah, the New York City, it's dawning on them. Hey, wait a minute, New York. It's going to cost us a lot of money, New York. And these people are coming from all over the world. And wait till you hear who he blames, this Democrat, so-called, in Sanctuary City, New York. Let's, in the meantime, let's go to the telephones. We reside at 888-630-9625. Let's go to Rob, calling from Montgomery County, Maryland. Home of the Bolshevik Revolution in the 21st century. Rob, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris.
Morning.
I tell you, I love listening to you in the morning. It gets me ready for my day. I got to make sure I take show me your papers. I got to take my papers with me when I get.
Honestly, seriously. It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, yeah. It's sad is what it is. When I was talking to Jasmine, I said, how is it that all this craziness that's going on, this Trump derangement syndrome, where they're doing anything and everything, pulling everything that they can possibly potentially pull out to keep him from, imposing the will of the other half of our society. How is it they're using all of our tax dollars for this? So really, they're imposing their craziness on everybody. It's not just the Republicans or MAGA people.
Well, sure, but the Democrats, they must submit to the demands and the requirements of the party. Otherwise, they know that they will be flayed, they'll be keel-hauled, they'll be drawn and quartered. They will experience social scourging, and they'll be fed to the jackals, because that's what the left does. Now, Mexico is a very fine country in many respects. The Mexican people are wonderful. Living in Washington, D.C. is kind of like living in Mexico, as a matter of fact, and in many respects, because of Democrats. Barack Obama told us we better worry about teaching our kids to speak Spanish because the Democrats have a plan for the United States, and the plan is not beneficial to the United States or your children or the future or capitalism or sovereignty or the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. They're the left. But here's a headline from ESPN from yesterday afternoon. They're a sports channel. 11,000 runners disqualified from the Mexico City Marathon, according to a report in the Spanish newspaper Marca. Approximately 11,000 runners at this year's Mexico City Marathon have been disqualified after being found to have cut the course at some point during the 26.2-mile race, according to the Spanish newspaper Marca. The disqualified runners represented more than one-third of the 30,000-person field that entered the race on August 27th. Marca, the newspaper, reported that the runners were disqualified after missing checkpoints that were placed every 5 kilometers. Some runners allegedly used vehicles or public transportation to cut the course. Where's Rosie Ruiz? Well, she's a famous old marathon cheater from long ago. Race organizers said in a statement to Marca that they will continue to identify and disqualify runners who skipped sections of the race. The Mexico City Sports Institute informs that it will proceed to identify those cases in which participants of the Mexico City Marathon 2023 have demonstrated an unsportsmanlike attitude during the event and will invalidate their registration times. You think? 11,000. They had 30,000 people sign up for the marathon. So far, they've disqualified 11,000 people because they're taking the subway and the buses, and their friends pick them up in their cars and drop them off later. That's not very sportsmanlike, do you think? I think that's kind of, it's funny, though, in its own special way, because I'm guessing a lot of them would self-describe as, what do you think? I think liberals. That's probably it. Probably liberals. They'd be lefties, and they cheat because that's what they do. They cheat. And I love the headline is Run Amok. Chief Run Amok. They got Chief Run Amok here. 11,000 DQ'd at marathon. That's pretty funny stuff. Also, speaking of big numbers, the Bud Light. I had to stop drinking Bud Light. I keep hoping the Bush family will buy it back from InBev. But the news popped yesterday afternoon that Bill Gates has jumped in on the Bud Light thing. This Bud's for Bill, the headline begins from themessenger.com. Bill Gates spends $95 million on shares of Anheuser-Busch. The investment come as the beer brand stages a comeback. Is that so? Following a conservative boycott. Now, I was kind of hoping that he's going to buy it and take it away from InBev, but Bill Gates bought 1.7 million shares of the struggling Anheuser-Busch last quarter in a $95 million transaction made through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Trust. Wait a minute, he did it through the trust because didn't they just attack Elon Musk for building a big glass building and there's an apartment in it or something like that he might stay in even though he owns the building and the company and the money but never mind then. Gates' bet on Anheuser-Busch, the parent company of Bud Light, comes as the beer company struggles to recover from the conservative backlash to its recent marketing campaign involving a transgender social media influencer. In April, soon after, Dylan Mulvaney, who's a man, posted a video featuring a custom Bud Light can, likes it in the can, that the brand sent her, this says her, it's him, to celebrate the anniversary of her, meaning his, transition. He didn't transition to anything. Conservative media personalities and politicians called for a boycott of the beer. In August, Anheuser-Busch reported a 10.5% drop in overall U.S. sales during second quarter following the boycott of the company's biggest brand. In July, the beer company eliminated about 380 corporate positions. Shares of Anheuser-Busch have dropped 16% since the Dylan Mulvaney video fiasco was posted in April. So Bill Gates buying in, I'd like somebody to take the beer back. But that's me. I'm kind of old-fashioned. All right, now let's get to the lunatic in New York. All right? That's kind of a fun story. Now, I was hoping that I'd like the Bush, B-U-S-C-H family to buy it back from InBev, and then I could go back to my beer. However, I went out with my best girl last night. We went to a little happy hour, got an appetizer. I got 2 beers. My best girl got 2 glasses of wine. And I've been having all these other beers. Turns out there are a lot of other beers out there from around the world. Some of them aren't bad. I don't want to go around doing ads, but had a couple of, what was this, like Hungarian Pilsner last night. I was like, that's actually good. Good and cold. Not so bad. All right, let's get to the lunatics in New York, because the New York Post has the story. Mayor Adams, that's Mayor Eric Adams of New York. He used to be a police officer. He's a disgrace to police officers everywhere. Mayor Adams warns migrant crisis will, quote, destroy, end quote, New York City. Rips Biden for failing to help. Really, all he wants is like $12 billion. He doesn't care about the border or sovereignty or the culture. He could care less about that. He's a Democrat. Mayor Eric Adams warned that the raging migrant crisis will destroy New York City and tore into President Biden for ignoring his pleas to help. He just wants cash. It's a shakedown from this point on. Saying the White House has given no support to the thousands of asylum seekers. Everybody in the world is an asylum seeker now. Arriving each month, there are rules for asylum seekers, and those rules aren't being followed. So let's go to Mayor Eric Adams yesterday in New York City, complaining and caterwauling and whining and blaming and pointing the finger and trying to shake down the American taxpayer for billions of dollars. You know, he's a Democrat, typical Democrat. More crime, more mayhem. How about that guy that beat the lady nearly to death in the subway in Harlem, who was arrested 9 times with his pants down around his thighs? Any update on that, Mayor Adams? Here's the Democrat mayor of New York City, Eric Adams.
Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to.
An ending to?
I don't see an ending to this.
He doesn't see an ending to it.
I don't see an ending to this.
You don't see an ending to it.
This issue will destroy New York City.
This issue will destroy New York City. It will destroy New York City. Well, isn't that your goal? So you guys are on the same page now? And one city at a time, you loot, you burn, you sack, you plunder, you riot, you rob. And then, you find new ways to destroy cities, from Seattle and Portland and San Francisco to Chicago and Minneapolis and St. Paul and Atlanta and Washington, D.C. and New York City and across the country. The left is here, and the left is coming for your rights. They're coming for your children. They're going to change their genders, sexualize them in kindergarten, but only with the LGBTQ agenda. No heterosexual sexualization of children in kindergarten, because that would be inappropriate. See, that's the thing. Mayor Eric Adams going to destroy the city.
We're getting 10,000 migrants a month.
So is Brownsville.
One time we were just getting Venezuela. Now we're getting Ecuador. Now we're getting Russian speaking coming through Mexico. Now we're getting Western Africa.
I'm glad you're paying attention now, rectal aperture that you are. Yeah, at once it was all Venezuela, then Ecuador, honestly, and now Russia. Russia, is there a land bridge between our southern border and Russia? How about all the Caribbean islands and West Africa? Got the what about East Africa and Central and South Africa and all that? Are we getting any of those? Because those are good. And hey, Mayor Adams, where are the people coming from?
Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City.
Right.
Everyone is saying it's New York City's problem.
Yeah.
Every community in this city is going to be impacted.
In this country will be impacted, already being impacted. Again, a murderer is the subject of a manhunt right now, day 7 in Pennsylvania, but he's probably not in Pennsylvania anymore. The Brazilian murderer, wanted for murder in Brazil, sauntered into the United States, murdered a woman in Pennsylvania by stabbing her 38 times in front of her 2 young girls. And he was arrested and he escaped by doing a Spider-Man move up a pair of walls and escaping, and now the manhunt is underway. Not to be confused with the manhunt underway in Washington, D.C. right now for the murderer that escaped from police custody at the George Washington University Hospital yesterday. I was down there in my automobile with the U.S. Park Police helicopter laying lazy circles overhead looking for the escaped murderer. Not an illegal alien in this case. And, of course, the Brazilian mass murderer who was convicted of murdering 11 people in Brazil and then escaped and was working a job in New Hampshire because of Democrats. Your Democrats. Now, what does Eric Adams want? I think I smell a shakedown coming.
We got a $12 billion deficit that we're going to have to cut. Every service in this city is going to be impacted.
Because of this?
All of us.
All of us. $12 billion because 100,000 illegal aliens arrived. That's $12 billion. What would that be per illegal alien? Breaking down $12 billion by 100. In fact, it's not even 100,000 anymore. Many of them just pass through, like the Brazilian mass murderer who just went on to New Hampshire. The Democrats are making everything better. MS-13 is everywhere. The cartels are everywhere. Fatal drug overdoses set records under Joe Biden. 107,000 fatal drug overdoses in the United States. That's a number greater than the number of Americans killed in the Vietnam War, the Korean War, and all of the post-September 11th wars combined. Iraq, Afghanistan, Korea, Vietnam, in 1 year from fatal drug overdoses. And by the way, the fentanyl is generated out of communist China, funneled into Mexico, assembled by the cartels. Joe Biden is the best friend of the Mexican drug cartels, human trafficking cartels, the child sex trafficking cartels. Joe Biden is the best friend of all of the enemies of America. Isn't that amazing? And finally, this numbskull, dimwit, Eric Adams, mayor of New York, is coming to the realization that the Democrat Biden policies may not be the best thing for the country, but he wants $12 billion. That's what he's asking for, and Joe Biden could care less. He's throwing, $1 trillion around like it's a nickel out of the bottom of his pocket.
All of us are going to be impacted by this. I said it last year when we had 15,000. I'm telling you now, with 110,000, the city we knew, we're about to lose.
And it's all on you and Joe Biden and the Democrats. Amazing. Now, who's to blame? Let's find out. Let's the mayor of our most populous city, the city that never sweeps, New York City. Who does Eric Adams think should be held responsible for all of this anarchy and mayhem?
The migrants. This is a national problem. It should be handled by the national government. But let's be clear. This mess is Trump-like Republicans' mess. Real immigration reform. I'm hearing those who coming out saying Eric is right, Eric is right. But don't pick half of what you say
not right.
On.
You're
pick
wrong.
The other half. That Trump Republicans created this mess. And we need to fix this mess with real immigration reform.
His head is wedged so far up his own rectum that I fear there is no recovering what's left of his not very capable brain. That is just a shocking lie. He is, just when you think that the politicians can't become bigger liars, somebody comes out and proves me wrong. Just the lies are so gigantic that, as their boy Gurgle used to say, make the lie so big that no one would dare not believe it. That is, Joseph Goebbels is sending a nice card to Eric Adams from hell.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Gurgle?
He might have been influenced by Gurgle. It could be a Gurgle influence thing. CBD is everywhere now. CBDs are in everything you buy practically. Well, my friends at Generic CBD have infused CBDs into their #1 best-selling, deep-penetrating muscle and joint cream. Let me tell you, this stuff is amazing. Read up on it online. Look at the reviews. It melts into your knees, your elbows, your shoulders, your back, especially those stiff hands, your fingers, your knuckles. Goes to work in a matter of seconds, and even my best girl says it's a fantastic moisturizer, too. The company is called GenericCBD.com. You've heard me talk about them before. They sell premium CBD products for a whole lot less cash, saving you money. And right now, you can try their muscle and joint cream for free. It's free. You pay $2.95 for the shipping, and that's it. But don't worry, it's not a subscription. There are no strings attached. They just want you to try it because they know you're going to love it. And then you're going to want more for yourself, for mom, for your coworkers, for everybody. So get your free sample today at GenericCBD.com. That's GenericCBD.com, GenericCBD.com. These products and statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or illness. Yeah, Eric Adams. Hey, Eric, what do you hear? I got more out of Chicago, because Chicago, this is what happens when you have stupid leaders. And boy, we've got a lot of those who are elected for all the wrong reasons. And I got to point to the failures of public education, too, because, the voters, come on.
Don't pick half of what you say I'm right on. Pick the other half.
All right, let's go to the telephones. Oh, gosh, I'm running out of time. Let's go to Eric, calling from California. Eric, I don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to get to you because you're Eric.
Yeah, hi, Chris. First, I'd like to say thanks to KOH for playing a recap of your show on Sundays. That let me find WMAL.
Well, you bet.
And also, you always say that they're not liberals, they're the left, and I didn't really know what you meant. But I always have tough time saying it first time. Naomi Park, in her book, explains it perfectly that liberals like the country, and the left wants to destroy it. And she explains it pretty good in a couple pages in her book.
That sums it up pretty well then, doesn't it? And she would know a thing or two about it, wouldn't she? Because she escaped the horror of North Korea and the communists there. And it's true. I do say that a lot. And Eric, it's because it's true. Because they're not liberals, they're the left, and the left is here to destroy and to harvest organs. They're like the left everywhere.